Hello, welcome. My name is Astrid, the Maths Mentor. Today I'll be answering a question requested by a student. It is to do with the arithmetic progression sequence. For those of you who don't know that I take requests, well, I do. You can leave your questions in the comments below or on my Facebook page, Astrid Nalvita, the Maths Mentor, and I will do these little videos for you answering your questions. The question is, a quadratic sequence is defined with the following properties. T2, the second term minus the first term, has a difference of 7. The third term minus the second term has a difference of 13. The fourth term minus the third term has a difference of 19. Write down the value of the fifth term minus the fourth term, and then the 70th term minus the 69th term. Then calculate the value of the 69th term if the 89th term is 23,594. The first question is, write the value of the difference between the fifth and the fourth term. Now we have the first three differences, and this one would be the next one on the list. If you put it together, 7, 13, and 19, you'll find out that there's a difference of 6 in between them. So 13 minus 7 is the same as 19 minus 13, which is a difference of 6. Therefore, the fifth term minus the fourth term would just be the 19 plus 6, which will be 25. That's easy enough. Now, the second question is, what is the difference between the 70th term and the 69th term? Now, of course, you can just keep on going, find the 6th minus the 5th, etc. until you get to the 70th, but that will take a while. What I've done here is I rebranded the terms. So instead of using T2 minus T1, I just used Y1 because I didn't really want to deal with the minus sign. It looks a bit messy. So I went ahead and rewritten it all with y. y1 is 7, y2 is 13, y3 is 19, etc. 9, 4, 25. And what we want is y69, because as you can see, the number it associates with is the smaller number. So y2 is t2. So the difference between the 70th and the 69th term, it will be y69. And what would that be? We will need to use the arithmetic progression term formula, and that is Tn is equal to a plus n minus 1d. We want T69 basically, but we're using y because that's the letter I chose. So y69 is equal to the first term, which is 7, plus n, which is 69, minus 1 times the difference, d, which is 6. And if you work that out, you get 415. Therefore, the difference between the 70th and the 69th term is 415. Alright, the next question is the hard one. Calculate the value of the 69th term if the 89th term is 23,594. I actually did it two different ways to show you that you don't always have to use a formula to work things out. So the first way I did it was I found the difference between the 89th and the 88th term using the same formula as above. So a plus n minus 1, which is 88 minus 1 times d, the difference, and I found that the difference between these two terms is 529. Then the difference of 88th and 87th term would just be 529 minus 6, because remember, the difference goes up by 6 every time. Therefore, if we're working backwards, we just minus the 6. Therefore, the difference between the 88th term and 87th term is 523, which is 6 less than 529. Now I went ahead and did this for every single one until we got to the 69th term without using a formula. Okay, I'll show you what I did. This looks a bit too, looks like a lot, but it's actually quite simple. So we start with the 89th term, which we were given here. The 89th term is 23,594. The difference between the 88th and 89th term, we found out here, was 529. So I just went ahead and minus 529 from this to get the 88th term. Now the difference between 88th term and 87th term is 523. So I got this number and I minus 523 and I got the 87th term. And I did this all the way, so I'll do one more. So the 86th term will just be the 87th term minus 6 less than what it was last time. So it's 517 now, and we get this number. Then the 85th term is that number minus 6 less than before, which is 511. And it goes on and on and on and on until you get to the 69th term, which is what the question wants. And I got 14,154. Now, what you would probably be able to tell right now is that all we're doing is just a whole bunch of minusing. We're just taking away a whole bunch of numbers. How much are we actually taking away? Well, we're taking away 529 and 523 and 511. So we are taking away the addition of all of these differences. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. We want to minus all of these numbers combined. So what we can do is add 529, add 523, add 517, all together, all of these added together, and minus it from 23,594, and we should get 14,154. Now, how do we find the addition of all these? Well, we can just grab these numbers and add it all up, but what's the point? We've already done all this working. Now what we want is the sum of all these differences from 415, which you got from question 1b, the difference of the 70th and the 69th term, all the way up to the difference of the 89th and the 88th term, which is 529. And then we can use the sum of the arithmetic progression formula, which is Sn equals to n over 2 outside of a plus l. N is the number of terms. We have 20. How do I know that? Well, the first one is the difference between the 70th and the 69th term. The second one would be the between the 71st and the 70th. And then the 72nd and the 71st. And you just work your way all the way up to the difference between 89th and 88th term. And there are only 20, so you can just count your way up. Make sure you got the right number of terms, because this is usually where people go wrong, when they have the wrong number of terms. The other way you could do it is also you want from the 70th to 69th, and you want the 89th minus 88. From 70 to 89 is 19, but you then have to add 1 because that's not inclusive of the first one, so that makes 20. So you can see why a lot of people might get 19 for this instead of 20. What I always suggest is, if it's not too much of a gap, just count each one instead of trying to do, I mean, you can do it both ways, I guess. Okay, so there are 20 terms. The first term is 415 and the last term is 529. You plug that into the formula, you get 9,440. Therefore, the 69th term would be the 89th term minus 9,940, which is what's given, 23,594, minus 9,440, which is 14,154. Is that the same as what we got last time? 14,154. Yes. So I'm pretty confident that this is the answer. I wasn't given the answers, so I'm not quite sure if this is actually right, but I did it both ways and I got the same result. If any of you out there is doing the same question, please let me know if I got it right or not. I would appreciate it very much. But until someone says I'm wrong, I'm just gonna assume I did it right. I hope that helps you. Until next time, study smart, not hard.